Weekend Update.
Welcome to Weekend Update. I'm Annamaria Stewart, and here is tonight's top story. You can now experience 40 years of SNL, the longest running comedy program in U.S. history, in its first ever full-scale exhibition on Fifth Avenue, just blocks from the legendary Studio 8H. So you better check it out now before it gets replaced by yet another H&M. We're here with Marc Lach. He's the creative director of Saturday Night Live, the exhibition. Thanks for having us, Marc.
Pleasure to have you. It's an exciting exhibition. We're very, very excited about you being here today.
Now, it's pretty crazy that a groundbreaking show like SNL goes from a blank page to live on air in only 6 days.
Yeah.
And the exhibition actually chronicles this day-to-day creative process. So walk us through a week at SNL.
Well, the exhibition, like you said, is laid out that way. We had kind of two choices, whether to tell the story chronologically, meaning from the first year to the 40th year, but you'll miss people then. You know, people that are fans today may not remember the early years. But the show is put together, like you said, in 6 days. It starts with a blank page every week. That's what makes the show so unique. You know, it's never the same. So on Monday, the Lorne Michaels and the head writers meet with the guest host, and they start to get an idea of what the show might be. Then the writers go off on Tuesday, write the show, maybe 30 sketches. Wednesday afternoon, they read them through, and Lorne and his team go into an office and decide maybe on 13 or so, 12 or 13, that are going to be built, if you will. The sets, the hair and makeup, the costumes, the props. But they may not even make it all on the show on Saturday night. So on Thursday, everybody gets busy. Thursday morning out in Brooklyn, the sets are being built, and they're delivered by Thursday evening, many of them, right to 30 Rock. Rehearsals are starting, and by Friday and Saturday, things are really moving. Musical guests are rehearsing, and then Saturday night, not at 11:30, but at 8 o'clock, there's a full dress rehearsal in front of an audience. And that's the show that they really look at and say, what are the sketches that are working? What are the, what is the guest host most comfortable with? And then the show is reordered and re-put together, repackaged, shortened up, so it's that hour and a half. And then, as Lorne Michaels says, the show starts at 11:30, not because they're ready, but because it's 11:30. It's really an intense week.
Now, not only does the exhibition uncover the behind the scenes, but you also showcase the history of the show.
Yeah.
And with 40 years of iconic sketches, how did you decide which ones to include?
Well, it was difficult. You're right. You could do an exhibition on every year, maybe even every week of the show, but to put all 40 years together. So it was really a collaboration with the folks over at SNL, historians, our writer. What's the best story to tell? Who are the people that you want to include and feature? But at the end of the exhibition, we show all the cast members, from the first to the most recently hired. So everyone's included, but we kind of feature the ones I think that most guests will relate to, that they remember, that they look at and go, I remember that one, I remember that sketch or that set or that prop. So that's why we try to pull everything together to give the best guest experience.
Now, with so many years incorporated into one exhibition, I'd imagine that some of the costumes, props, and sets were impossible to find. So which ones are the originals and which ones had to be recreated?
Yeah, well, sets are the most difficult because when you go out to that scenery set shop out in Brooklyn, you'll see all these scenery flats lined up and stored. Well, that's because sets one week will become something else the next week. A wall that was red one season may be blue with a window in it the next season. So the sets were the most difficult. This full-scale recreation of the home base that we're sitting on today, this is a recreation, but it's just like the one over at 30 Rock, built by the same people, designed by the same people. Same with the Wayne's World set, although part of that set was actually on the 40th anniversary show that Dana Carvey and Mike Myers performed Wayne's World again. But we do have, all the costumes are original, all the props are original. The things that I think we most relate to are original, and sometimes, or in some cases, we're almost lost. You know, people are finding things for the first time in 40 years. I remember, speaking of sets, I remember the Church Lady set that we have in our scenery set gallery. Someone was up in the rafters out in Brooklyn and said, "I found it, I found it," and they hadn't seen it for many, many years. So short of some of the recreation of the sets, everything in this exhibition is original and was used on the show.
Now we know it takes 6 days to put together an episode of SNL, but how long did it take to put together SNL, the exhibition?
Yeah, well, more than 6 days. We started talking about this project about 6 years ago, actually. Wow. But we got started in earnest about a year before we opened. And that's a short amount of time, actually. But we had this kind of head start with all the creative people over at SNL. They were part of this as well, you know. When I design an exhibition, you kind of start from ground zero, you learn it, you put your team together. But to have all these incredible people that know this show so well, that also know the theatrical side of doing things, that was a big head start. So we started about a year out, started working on this building about 8 months out, because we've transformed a building. This is no temporary looking exhibition. This is built into the space here in New York on Fifth Avenue. So about a year it took.
Now, you mentioned that you did work with some of, you know, the original writers, producers, production designers. How closely did you have to work with them? Did you sort of like, you know, do a day in the life of their job?
In many cases we did, because so many of the people have been with the show since the beginning. Eugene Lee, the great set designer, who's won Tonys on Broadway, has been doing SNL from the beginning. The lighting designer, Phil Himes, from the beginning. And I won't mention their ages, but when you see guys that have been doing things for a long time, say lighting Kanye West, and they were alive before Kanye West was born doing this, you know, it's pretty incredible. So yeah, working with all the folks over there in the hair and makeup department, the set department, the writers. We've talked to, when we have the Tuesday gallery, we talk to the head writers from 4 generations, so 4 head writers of the show, and they're talking about their different experiences. Many very much alike, because the show is really done the way it was done 40 years ago, the way the week is structured, the way the show in many ways is structured. It's the same thing. So they have these shared experiences that were the same, but in the case of the writers, they kind of come at it from different angles, different personalities, different ways of seeing life, really, is the way they translate it into their job.
As you were researching for the exhibition, what were you the most surprised to learn about the show and the process that goes into making it?
Well, I guess it was just that we've been talking about, how it starts with a blank page every week and then ends up with something incredible. And what I love about it is that it's really, you know, a high wire act every week. There's a real uncertainty of what's going to happen at 11:30 when they look in the camera and say, "Live from New York," you know? It really doesn't have, it's been rehearsed, but it hasn't really, you know, the dress rehearsal happens, but it's not like a TV sitcom or a film where it's tweaked and worked so they get it just the way they want it. This is a high wire act. So, you know, when we look at the show, some weeks we may say, you know, I'm not sure it was that funny this week, or last season. Well, that's one of the attractive parts of the show to me. It's these people just going out and putting it on the line and saying, here's what we've got week after week. So it was really the way the show is put together and the intensity of the week that surprised me. I knew it going in, but when you really are there in the middle of it all, experiencing it, it's really fantastic.
Now, is there a portion of the exhibition that you're the most proud of? And what part of the exhibition do visitors seem to have the strongest reaction to?
I think, and we're returning to the same theme, but I think when people, you know, and I talk to so many at the end of the exhibition, what did they think? They don't know who I am, if I'm connected, but I've kind of get inside their brains to see what connected with them the most. And I think they were expecting to see the great artifacts and see videos and laugh, but I don't think they really knew how this show is put together. And they walk out with an appreciation, a fascination, and a real excitement about seeing the show the next week, now that they know how it's done. So that was the most, I think that's what guests take away. For me, putting the favorite part of the show, that's like the classic, who's your favorite child, right? When you go from gallery to gallery. I think the space we're in, and we're just sitting now on the home base stage, but over there is the music stage, and over there is the Jeopardy stage, and there's a studio audience in front of it. in front of us, and it's the hour-and-a-half show condensed into 8 minutes. And I think people walk out, if they don't have the opportunity to go down the block or down the street to 30 Rock to see the show. After all, it's the toughest ticket in town to see Saturday Night Live. I think they get a real sense and a real appreciation of what the show is like, not from sitting at home watching it on TV, but sitting out there in the audience.
I think it's also really great that you have a lot of interactive portions. You know, you can actually go on the set, sit behind the desk, go on the stage. I mean, it's pretty cool.
That's it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, that Wayne's World set that we talked about, people will walk in, if there's no one else in the gallery or sitting on the set, they stand back and treat it as if they're at MoMA or at the Metropolitan, like, well, of course I have to stand back here. And we're saying, no, get on that. You just plop on that couch and do your best Wayne's World impression. So it is a fun, interactive, participatory experience.
You've actually had a couple of previous cast members and current cast members come here and check out the exhibition.
Yeah.
What was their reaction?
Well, that's been fun, and sometimes you know that we had a big party at the beginning, and we had the current cast and many of the past cast come to that. But every once in a while, I'll get a call on the radio and say, you know, he's here or she's here today, and that's kind of fun. And I think it's that connection of it being real for them. Jay Farrow, I heard him talking the other day, and he, in his comedic way, said, "It's too real, man. It freaked me out. It's too real." So I love that the cast and many of the production staff that have seen the exhibition feel that it's a really great, and this is credit to so many people, a really great representation of what the show is really like.
So how long will Saturday Night Live, the exhibition, be here on Fifth Avenue, and are there any plans to take it on the road?
There are plans to take it on the road, but we want to keep it here as long as we can because it really belongs in New York. You know, it's to be. In fact, when I talked to you earlier about it being a dream for a while, there were ideas of taking it, maybe starting in different places in the country, but I always wanted it right here. The show has always been a very authentic show, right? A very gritty show. And I love the idea that you walk in and walk out right on the streets of New York. So we'll see. It's an indefinite stay right now, but when it is finished finally in New York, we'll see you some other city around the country.
Well, that's our show. I want to thank all the people of SNL for 40 plus years of incredible television. I have been honored to be a part of it, even though people won't stop yelling "Super Palin" at me in the airport. And I just want to thank you for coming today. After every show, we all leave 30 Rock and we go to the after party, and tonight you are all invited. Just don't be freaked out when the after party looks exactly like a museum gift shop. That's how we roll. Thank you. Good night.